Hey there, race fans. It's Race Day Top 5 with me, Frank 5. Texas Motor Speedway, the great American Speedway, the first race in a new round of the playoffs, provided a lot of interesting storylines, a lot of carnage, a lot of playoff contenders ran into some trouble, but the championship favorite emerged victorious and punched his ticket to battle for a title. Let's talk about all that went down in the Lone Star State. Number 1, Kyle Larson picks up his 8th win of the season. His 8th win, and that win solidified his spot into the Championship 4 in Phoenix as he captured yesterday's Autotrader EchoPark Automotive 500, I know that's a long name to say, at Texas Motor Speedway, winning it over William Byron, Christopher Bell, Brad Keselowski, and Kevin Harvick. Kyle Larson had the dominant car. I mean, flat out dominant from the start. Started on the pole, led the most laps, won the first 2 stages, had the fastest car. Had a couple challenges in the race, though, from his teammate William Byron and a couple of the guys that needed to win that were down in points as far as trying to get into the Championship 4. A couple of the guys that were eliminated from the playoffs in the early couple of rounds gave Larson some fits towards the end, but he pulled through and he was able to succeed, getting his 8th win of the season. He won in Texas earlier this year, winning the All-Star race, which involved $1 million. No points allowed, but he was really strong yesterday. He had to work for it on those restarts. They gave him fits on every restart that we had late in the race, but Larson came through in the end. He had the fastest car. I mean, everything's just clicking for this 5 team. I mean, what they had to overcome last week with the alternator belt, having to change that, and a battery problem, and working their way back up to the field to win the race at the Roval was just total team effort and a total team victory yesterday, putting together the best car on the track, having, the best car, good track position, solid laps all around. This 5 team is just firing on all cylinders this season. There's no doubt in my mind that Kyle Larson is still the championship favorite. A couple of weeks ago, when Denny Hamlin started winning, it looked like he was the championship favorite. Now it's changed back to Kyle Larson. I believe he's going to carry this on. He's now locked into the Championship 4. He doesn't have to worry about the next 2 races at all. He can just go on and have fun. But you know what? He might as well just go win the next 2 because he's just been so dominant this season. There's no stopping this 5 team, and just what a bounce-back year it's been for Kyle Larson. All that he went through last year with driving for Chip Ganassi Racing, then the pandemic came. Then during an iRacing event, he was caught saying a racial slur, which got him originally suspended by Ganassi, and then he was suspended indefinitely by NASCAR, and then Ganassi fired him, and Larson never drove a Cup car for the rest of the year, and we were all wondering, would we ever see Kyle Larson back in NASCAR? Then he stayed off of social media for quite some time, which sometimes we all need to do. And he then reemerged about the late September, early October, and he posted an apology notice talking about how he made a mistake and he's trying to make himself a better person. Well, Kyle Larson got the opportunity in late October when he was signed by Rick Hendrick at Hendrick Motorsports to drive for them this season and bring back the number 5 car, and also run a tribute scheme to honor the late, great Ricky Hendrick, Rick Hendrick's son, who perished in that unfortunate plane crash that we had back in 2004. This is a very sad day. But Kyle Larson, came in with a point to prove that he could still be the dude, but in better equipment, and try to win races and battle for a championship. Something that Rick Hendrick saw in this man to bring him back into NASCAR. A total A-plus move by Hendrick Motorsports, and the whole, if I had to grade Kyle Larson coming back to NASCAR, driving for Hendrick Motorsports, and winning all these races and battling for a championship, it's an A+. But you want to succeed by winning the championship. This thing is not over yet. You punch your ticket to the Championship 4, which you absolutely deserve to. You've been the best car all year long. You deserve to go to the Championship 4. But this thing is not over yet. You have to battle 3 other guys, which we will decide in the next 2 races about who's going to battle out with Larson for the championship. I believe it's going to be a fierce battle in Phoenix. We had a good championship battle last year for the first time at that track. If this was Homestead, Kyle Larson would walk away with this thing. This is Phoenix, though. But Larson's pretty good at Phoenix, so I give him a chance. I give him a strong chance. I give him a 90% chance because you never know what's going to happen with the other guys if they can put up a challenge against Larson. So the 5 team, great job all around yesterday, just dominating Texas. Good performance by Kyle Larson and Cliff Daniels. They're on to the Championship 4. Number 2, Hendrick Motorsports, as far as the whole team, had a good day yesterday, excluding Alex Bowman, who crashed early in the race, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. William Byron was the second best car all day long to Kyle Larson. He had a fast race car. He could keep up with Larson at times. And it looked like for a moment, William Byron in the early stages was the best car. Then here comes Kyle Larson, and he runs away with the whole thing. Byron did give him a couple challenges on those restarts. He restarted behind him, or he restarted on the top lane. Byron, I feel like if he had won last weekend at the Roval, how would we be looking at him this week? I mean, he looked like still a driver that should be in the playoffs right now still. He had the car that could have won last week. He had a car capable of winning yesterday. Unfortunately, the incident at the Roval late, getting bumped from behind by Tyler Reddick, and then crashing out late with 2 to go and settling for 11th place wasn't enough to get him in, and he needed to win regardless. Yesterday, he had a very good race car. I mean, and this 2014, with William Byron and Rudy Fugle, they just had great chemistry all year long. Little point I want to make note of, William Byron and Tyler Reddick made contact again yesterday. And looking at it, it looked like the old Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt battle because Tyler Reddick's car was painted silver and black like the good run scheme that Dale Earnhardt had. And of course, William Byron got the rainbow sort of colors on his car to honor Jeff Gordon when he had the DuPont rainbow colors back in the 90s. They had a fierce battle. They made contact, which put a little tire rub on both cars. But William Byron was able to salvage the second place. Tyler Reddick, I think, fell back to 8th. He finished 9th at the conclusion of the race. I guess the tire cut and he slid back to 9th. But nonetheless, Byron had a good run yesterday. As for Chase Elliott, who was still part of the playoffs in the round of 8, part of the 8 drivers that still have a chance to make it to the championship for Phoenix to defend his title. He had a battle yesterday. He had to start the rear, really 24th, because he failed pre-race tech twice. A lot of other guys also failed inspection, so he got to start 24th, which that isn't horrible. And he came moving through that field. He definitely had a fast race car. And Texas, in the past, ever since the repaint, hasn't really been kind to Chase Elliott. I mean, the last 2 races we had on the old surface before we reconfigured the track, Elliott was top 5 in both of them and had cars capable of winning. 2017, both races, he was good. 2018, he was good. 2019, he was okay. And 2020, he was okay. I mean, it's not been a horrible track, but the last 3 races there, he's haven't had top 10 finishes. The speed really hadn't been there for the 9 teams, so they had to come in with better race car this week, which I think they did. I mean, they ran the All-Star race earlier this year there, and Elliott was very good there, and I'm thinking, okay, if he could bring that same kind of car to Texas this weekend, he could run up front. He came charging to the field, he got some stage points at the end of stage 1, then stage 2 came along, and he was just cruising in the middle of the pack, and then he had to pit in the middle of stage 2 because he felt a vibration, which apparently the tire was going down the right front, and they caught a lucky break by coming to pit road. Then a caution came out, they took the wave around, and they were able to get back on the lap. They didn't score any stage points in stage 2, and then stage 3 was all about trying to get back to the top 10. Let's face it, when they were back in the deep traffic, after making a couple adjustments, the car was getting a little bit better than it was in stage 2, but the 9 car still wasn't able to get back to the top 5 where his teammates were, but he was able to salvage a solid 7th place finish. He's still below the cutoff by 8 points, but that doesn't mean those 8 points can be made up. He can make them up. He's good at Kansas. He won it there in 2018. He's good at Martinsville. We all saw what he did last year as a kind of walk-off performance to get themselves to Phoenix to battle for the title, which they ended up being successful in hoisting the Belle France Trophy. I believe the 9 car still has the potential to get in there. And he said in his interviews, and I can definitely tell, he's moved past the incident with Kevin Harvick. And Kevin Harvick put an interesting statement yesterday. He's like, I can't put it into words. It's kind of weird. Like, I think Kevin Harvick is still not over it. They did both have a conversation with NASCAR. Well, NASCAR called them, really, and said, look, enough is enough. We will not let this happen. Again, do not let this happen. And if you do something, we will intervene. And somebody will probably set out a race. So they raced each other side by side yesterday a couple times. There was no problems whatsoever. There were a couple close calls, but not enough for them both to probably retaliate against one another. Elliott's behind it, but I don't think Kevin is. So, Kevin, dude, you need to move behind it. You're a 40-plus-year-old man. Grow up, please. You're acting childish still. Elliott's due to be 26 next month. Next month, November, late November. He's due to be 26 years old, and he's being more mature than you are right now. I like you, Kevin, but you need to move past it. Come on, man. Number 3, Kyle Busch. He had quite a day yesterday. Good race car, but under the first competition caution pit stop, Kyle Busch got caught for speeding, had to restart towards the back of the field, but luckily he avoided a big wreck on the back straightaway, and then he was able to pick his way through the field and got some stage points, and he definitely had a good race car in stage 2. Then in stage 3, something went wrong. They went backwards. I mean, they were really struggling. yet with their car yesterday. They were able to come home 8th. Kyle said in post-race, we need to go back to the drawing board as far as not just his car, but the Gibbs cars, because they all did struggle yesterday. So Kyle Busch makes a valid point that apparently Hendrick Motorsports has caught back up to them as far as the 550 package is concerned. They have to go back to work. They have to go back to what they ran at Darlington, or not Darlington, Las Vegas. They have to go back to and find what they had there. So it's going to be interesting. Kyle Busch is still 8 points above the cutoff, aside from the 9 car being down by 8 points. But the AT team, they apparently have some work to do if they're going to have any chance to punch their ticket to the championship for. So we'll see what happens with the AT car. He was a little upset, though, after the performance they had yesterday. I mean, I could tell. Other than Christopher Bell's third place finish, the Gibbs cars had some struggles, which leads me into this next point. Number 4, Joe Gibbs Racing, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr. had problems yesterday late in the race. Firstly, Martin Truex Jr. This has to be addressed first. Martin Truex Jr. In the middle, the late stages of the race, they were really struggling with the Al Haley race car that they got themselves back in the top 10. Then with about 20 plus laps to go, while battling Daniel Suarez in turns 3 and 4, Truex apparently cuts down, or Suarez didn't give him enough room. It's tough to tell, but they made contact and Truex ricochets up into the outside wall, taking him out of the race, and right now he's 22 points below the cutoff. I mean, if it was early in the race, Daniel Suarez people would have blamed Suarez, and I probably would have too, said you got to give a guy room, especially when you're racing a playoff driver. And it's tough to race against these playoff drivers for guys that got eliminated from the playoffs, in the middle of the playoffs, or didn't make it at all. It's tough to race a driver that's battling for a championship at the moment. And, Truex, he could have given Suarez a little room, although late in the race, it's go time. Everybody's going to be battling for the same piece of real estate. So, it's unfortunate for the ITT. They're almost in a must-win. Could 22 points be made up? Sure. Do I think so? No. He's going to have to win. But his next 2 tracks, he's won at Kansas before. He's won at Martinsville before. He won there early this year. So, Martin Truex Jr. fans, stay optimistic. You have a chance to still make the championship 4. As for Denny Hamlin, he came in with a 7-point cushion over the cutoff entering the race. And at times during the race, he was 20-plus points above and looked like he was going to be in good position before going to Kansas. Well, then late in the race, on one of those late race restarts, he made contact with Ryan Blaney and the number 12 car coming off of turn 4, where Blaney's right side door did Hamlin's left rear, and caused the 11 to have a tire rub, and then a couple laps later the tire cut and he went around the pack and hit the inside wall. Not too hard, it did damage the splitter. Then on another late race restart, we had a wreck where Chase Briscoe, who Hamlin made contact with earlier, kind of in retaliation for the Indianapolis road course finish where Briscoe bumped Hamlin out of the way for the victory. Briscoe got black flagged anyways. Buescher and Briscoe made contact, and Hamlin hit the back of Buescher with a lot of damage. Yeah, with all that damage, they taped it down and came back to finish 11th. Considering all that happened at the end, I'd say that's a good bounce back, but now you're 9 points above. That's not comfortable. Yes, he's good at Kansas. Yes, he's good at Martinsville. Will he probably make the championship 4? Yes. But if you have another incident like this in one of these next few races, you could find yourself on the outside looking in. It happened to him in 2019, though. He was below the cutoff after Texas race where he had the grass earlier, damaged the splitter, and was non-competitive from there on out. He goes on the next race at Phoenix, and he goes on to win and punch his ticket to the championship 4, but he ultimately didn't win the title. So, Denny Hamlin fans, stay optimistic. You probably have a good chance to make it to the championship 4, pending you don't have another mistake. Truex, it's almost must-win right now. Pretty much must-win. So, those guys, like Kyle Busch, they have to go back to work because they did struggle for the most part yesterday. At number 5, Joey Logano is in a must-win situation. He must win one of these next 2 races. Why do I say that? Well, during the race, and I also forgot to mention, I'll throw Martin Truex Jr. in here, both of them did not score stage points yesterday because they tried different pit strategies late in both stages. They didn't score any stage points, which hurts them. It hurts them, especially Logano. He came in 15 points below the cutoff. And now he's 43 or 48 down because late in the race with 40 to go, the 22 car running in the top 10 blew up. The first engine failure for the 22 team since 2014 at Pocono. Really? Has it been 7 years since the 22 blew an engine? That's a lot of strong engines you've had for quite a while. Good reliability, but not for yesterday though. So now they're in a must-win, but they've won at Kansas, and we saw what he did to Martin Truex Jr. at the end of the Martinsville race in 2018. It's highly possible the 22 car could possibly win. Do I think he's going to win? No. Here's the thing. The Team Penske guys, all of them had pretty good speed yesterday. Brad Keselowski, who he gained more points than I expected him to have. He is 15 below the cutoff, which means he could point or win his way in. He had a good race yesterday. Ryan Blaney, solid day, a couple points above the cutoff. I think 17, 19 points around that range. But Joey Logano, he struggled. And the Team Penske guys, Ryan Blaney's been their best driver all year long. Keselowski's almost on his way out the door as far as Team Penske before he goes to Roush. Joey Logano, he won a race this year at the Bristol Dirt, but it's a dirt race. We don't run anywhere else on dirt in the Cup Series schedule other than that Bristol Dirt event. He's been okay this year. He just hasn't been great. So the 22 team needs to execute. They have to win. I mean, some people in the post-race yesterday, like Junior and Burton said, it's possible that they could point their way in. The way I look at it, it's must win. Yeah. Because what if another playoff driver wins? You need to win one of these next two races if you're going to make the championship 4. So it's going to be a dogfight for the 22 team to try and win next few races if they're going to have a chance to join Kyle Larson and the other 2 drivers, whoever they may be, in the championship 4. But we got a battle on our hands, folks. This playoffs are just absolutely wild right now. Also, before I close out this video, if you guys can kind of tell, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today. I've got a little bit of a stuffy nose. I'm not feeling too hot. I'll feel better probably the next few days, and I'll probably have a much better, clearer voice the next time I do a recap video after next week in Kansas. So apologies for that, but you know what? It's fall right now, and there's stuff in the air, and it's affecting our sinuses and affecting your throat and everything else. So welcome to having allergies. I'm not allergic to anything like, leaves-wise or like pollen-wise. It's just something in the air right now. So I don't know what it is, but I'll feel better for next week's recap video. So that'll be all from Texas, and we have 2 more races left in the round of 8, and we will decide which one of those drivers next week may punch their ticket to the championship 4 to join Kyle Larson. Will Kyle Busch do it, who won at Kansas earlier this year, may I remind you? Will Denny Hamlin do it? He won there in 2019. Will Chase Elliott did it? He did it in 2018. We've got a battle on our hands, folks. Joey Logano did it in 2020. It's possible. It's possible. We've got a battle on our hands, folks, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen in these next 2 races. It's going to be a ball. So subscribe, like, congrats to Kyle Larson and the 5 team. You're on to the championship 4. Next few races, we'll find out who else joins him. So have a good day, everybody, and I'll see you later.